everybody. Thanks for joining me for our weekend forecast for May 5th through the 7th. And the weather is finally starting to turn. I know this has been a brutal stretch. Something about dreary and cold and rainy weather, just as you're expecting maybe the weather to turn after a long winter. That really just, everybody I talk to lately is just like, is it ever going to stop raining? And yes, it is going to stop raining. Today, we have a little bit of a chance of a couple of sprinkles, less than we've had the last couple of days. I think we are going to see some sun today, not overwhelming sun. Tomorrow, I think we get a decent amount of sun, and Sunday we get a decent amount of sun as well. So things are trending in the right direction. We're still not going to be overly warm, no big warm stretches. Next week looks, while it doesn't look perfect by any stretch of the imagination, it does look drier than this week, and definitely, even though we might get a batch of rain early next week, models are somewhat up in the air about that. But even though we might get that, we may also get, we also looks pretty progressive, so it won't stick around forever. So let's get into the details, talk about what's going to happen this weekend. First of all, as you can see, we still have our upper level system has finally moved way out to our east, but it is still dragging back some clouds. But you can notice they really are breaking up. To our north, we really cleared out last night. The clouds are very low now, which means with a little bit of sun working on them, you can tend to dry those out. We still could get a little bit of instability caused by the heating of the day in the afternoon. And I use the quote, I definitely use heating of the day in quotation marks because it's still not going to be real warm today, but a little bit warmer than the last couple of days. And as that happens, you can build up a shower or two. There's still enough moisture around for that, but I think it's going to be pretty limited in terms of that. I wanted to give you a closer up satellite view just to give you an idea of how limited those clouds really are. You can see that to our north, to the far northeast, and they're kind of pivoting around. There's some breaks in the clouds. They are going to continue to break up. We are finally breaking up the clouds as the system moves far to our east, but we are still sort of stuck in them this morning. A lot of fog and low clouds around. I think we will see some peaks of sun, though. In terms of radar, if we look at wider radar scope here, you can see there are still some showers. We'll move closer in. Everything else is not really moving too much. We kind of have this big ridge across the central part of the country. We have some thunderstorms that are trying to beat out on the ridge a little bit. And we have this system that's kind of moving underneath the ridge, and a little bit of still a pretty good upper level trough here over the Great Lakes, which is enhancing some of the showers there. A lot of that's not actually hitting the ground. But anyways, if we move in closer to home, you can see a few showers. Not much of this is making it to the ground either. This is sort of terrain enhanced here across the White Mountains of New Hampshire and a little bit of the western mountains of western Maine, but and also across the Adirondacks. Anyways, as we get some sun today, it gives us a chance for a few of these pop-up showers to happen. I think less widespread than yesterday, certainly far less widespread than Wednesday or Tuesday. As we head into upper level pattern, what it's looking like, you can see the ridge is starting to kind of, what has happened here is, and it's always a little bit of how is the ridge going to break down. And what has happened here is the ridge has kind of gotten pushed so far north, up into central and northern Canada now, that there is still a ridge here, but the storms have been able to kind of slide underneath. And what that has done is it's finally allowed a little bit of movement in the atmosphere, and it's pushed the heart of our trough well offshore, although we still are in a trough situation here across the east. This isn't exactly how the models about a week ago when they forecasted this pattern very well, but it always struggled with how exactly a blocking situation is going to break down. Does it break down by energy going over the top or underneath? And the models often just don't predict that real well. It's often influenced by very subtle forces in the atmosphere, and small changes in those make a big difference. And that's sort of what's happened here. They do tend to do that. The trough either kind of breaks down with stuff cutting underneath it. And what can happen sometimes then is you would get this area to kind of cut itself off, this area of ridging to cut itself off, and then just take a little while to be beat back basically by temperatures being cooler here across northern Canada. Anyways, we're kind of getting in the weeds there. But anywho, what this means is finally this trough is moving. It means that about a week ago, it looked like the good part of this was that the trough was going to move over the top of us and we might get sustained, very pleasant weather after the system. Doesn't look like that's quite as likely, but it does look like after this we'll be in a more progressive weather pattern where and it does look like we'll get a few dry days before we have our next shot of any precipitation. And that's going to happen to fall over the weekend, which is nice because we've had some rough weekends here lately. Okay, so today, a few sprinkles. This probably looks more pessimistic than I really would be. I think, for instance, if your kiddos have a game, my son has a baseball game today. I would anticipate that baseball game will happen, even though there will be a few sprinkles around. Temperatures in the upper mid 50s, really, for a lot of us. But after being stuck in the 40s for days, that actually is going to feel kind of nice. Temperatures tonight, we should clear out, I think, pretty good. So it could be a little bit of fog and low cloudiness around. Temperatures in the up 30s. Saturday, low 60s, mostly sunny. Thankfully, mostly sunny. Sunday, similar, mostly sunny, mid 60s. Both days fall down into the 40s overnight. So let's take a look at those weekend highlights. After several dreary days, we are finally turning the corner. Temperatures will be near normal. Today is better, but still a bit gray, with a chance of a sprinkle or two. No showers tomorrow or Sunday. Next week looks to feature a better weather pattern. There you go. So I'll be back on Monday. I'll have more details. By then, the models should hopefully have really ironed out exactly how the trough is going to break down here fully, and we'll be into a more stable weather pattern. Well, more stable but moving weather pattern. This week's forecast was pretty easy. The question was always just how long the trough is going to stick around, and it stuck around as long as humanly possible. So yeah, there you go. Weather should be better next week. I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. They help support what I do here at the West River Weather Guy. I really appreciate their help. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel before, I would encourage you to do so. And I'll be back on Monday morning.